I stood in the middle of our Soho loft, the Swarovski chandelier casting glimmers across the polished hardwood floor, feeling like my world had just imploded. Tonight was supposed to be our 5-year wedding anniversary, the kind of night you see in movies. Romantic, perfect, unforgettable. I'd spent weeks planning this. The table was set with crisp white linens, a spread of lobster mac and cheese from that fancy spot in Chelsea, and martinis I'd mixed myself. The olives bobbing in the glass like little promises. I was wearing the red Versace dress I'd saved for a year to buy, the one that hugged my curves and made me feel like I could conquer New York. The jazz playlist hummed through the speakers, Ella Fitzgerald's voice weaving through the air. I was ready to celebrate us, me and Mark, the life we'd built. But then my phone pinged, and everything shattered. I glanced at the screen, expecting a sweet text from Mark, maybe him saying he was running late from the office. Instead, it was a dagger in text form. Liv, I'm done. I'm with Jessica now. Don't call me. My breath caught in my throat. The words were cold, clinical, like he was canceling a dentist appointment, not our marriage. Jessica. That name burned like acid. His ex, the trust fund princess with her Tribeca penthouse and her smug little comments at parties, calling me small town with that fake smile. I could still hear her voice from that gala 2 years ago, dripping with condescension. Oh, Olivia, you're so quaint. I stood there, frozen, the martini glass slipping from my hand. It hit the floor, gin splashing across my bare feet, the olives rolling under the table. I wanted to scream, to tear the chandelier down, to make all of Soho hear how my heart was breaking. I sank onto the couch, my hands shaking as I read the text again, like maybe I'd misread it. But no, it was real. 5 years, countless late nights paying off this loft, all the times I'd laughed off his jokes about my hustle, gone, just like that. My chest tightened, like someone was squeezing the air out of me. I didn't even realize I was crying until I tasted salt on my lips. How could he do this? Over a text? After everything? I grabbed my phone, my thumb hovering over his number, but then I stopped. No, I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to be that girl. Instead, I opened Instagram because if Mark was with Jessica, she'd be flaunting it. And oh, she was. There it was, her latest story posted 10 minutes ago. A close-up of her manicured hand, a massive diamond ring sparkling under some chandelier that probably cost more than my car. The caption read, "New chapter, new sparkle." My stomach churned. I swiped through, and the next slide was her and Mark, his arm around her waist, both of them grinning like they'd won the lottery. The comments were flooding in, our mutual friends, people I'd hosted at this very loft, typing "congrats" and "so happy for you," like I didn't exist. Like our marriage was just a footnote. I threw my phone onto the couch, my hands balling into fists. "You've got to be kidding me!" I yelled, my voice echoing off the exposed brick walls. The jazz playlist mocked me, Ella's voice now sounding like a funeral dirge. I paced the loft, my heels clicking against the floor, trying to make sense of it. How long had this been going on? Was it just Jessica, or had there been others? My mind spiraled, replaying every late night at the office, every vague excuse. I was about to pour another martini when my phone buzzed again. It was Sarah, my best friend since college, the one who'd always had my back. "Liv, you okay? Check your messages." I opened our chat, and there it was. A screenshot that made my blood run cold. It was a text thread between Mark and Jessica, dated 6 months ago. "Can't wait to see you in Miami," he'd written with a winking emoji. Her reply, "Miss you already, baby." 6 months. I'd been working overtime to cover the loft's mortgage, stressing over every bill while he was planning his escape with her. I screamed, "That bastard! You played me behind my back?" The words tore out of me, raw and ragged. I clutched the phone, my knuckles white, as the screenshot burned into my brain. 6 months ago, I was still packing his lunches, still kissing him goodbye every morning, still believing we were a team. And he was texting her, probably laughing at how clueless I was. The betrayal wasn't just the breakup, it was the planning, the lying, the way he let me pour everything into this marriage while he was already gone. I looked around the loft at the table set for two, the candles flickering like they were mocking me. This was supposed to be our night, our milestone. Instead, it was the night I realized I'd been a fool. I sank to the floor, my dress pooling around me, the cold hardwood biting into my knees. The pain was sharp, like a blade twisting in my gut, but something else was rising too, anger, hot and fierce. Mark thought he could walk away, leave me humiliated, while Jessica paraded her victory lap on Instagram? No, I wasn't going down like that. I wiped my tears, smearing mascara across my cheeks, and stood up. The jazz playlist was still playing, but now it felt like a battle anthem. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but one thing was clear. Mark and Jessica were going to regret underestimating me. This wasn't the end of my story, it was just the beginning. The morning after Mark's text, I woke up on the couch, my eyes swollen like I'd been punched. The loft was a mess. Martini stains on the floor, candles burned down to stubs, that stupid jazz playlist still looping on low. My Versace dress was crumpled, and my head throbbed like I'd been hit by a truck. For a second, I hoped it was a nightmare, but my phone sat there on the coffee table, Mark's message glaring at me. Liv, I'm done. Done. Like I was a Netflix subscription he could cancel. I wanted to curl up and cry until I drowned, but something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let that bastard and his penthouse princess walk all over me. Not today. I grabbed my phone and FaceTimed Sarah. She picked up on the first ring, her face filling the screen, already pissed. Liv, oh my God, you okay? That piece of garbage. You're a queen girl. Make that clown regret it. Her words were like gasoline on the fire burning in my chest. I'm done crying, Sarah, I said, my voice hoarse but steady. He wants to play dirty? I'll show him dirty. She grinned. That's my girl. Burn his world down. I hung up, my hands shaking. Not from sadness now, but from rage. Mark thought he could humiliate me? I was about to make him wish he'd never met me. I stormed to the closet, yanking out every trace of him. His Rolex Daytona, the one he bragged about at every dinner party. His Tom Ford vest, tailored to perfection. His Titleist golf clubs, which he loved more than he ever loved me. I threw it all into a cardboard box, each item landing with a satisfying thud. I called FedEx same day, and while they were en route, I scribbled a note on a scrap of paper. Your trash, your problem. I taped it to the box and gave the driver Jessica's Tribeca address. Picturing her opening it, her smug face twisting, made me smile for the first time in hours. Enjoy your new baggage, princess, I muttered as the FedEx guy hauled it away. But I wasn't done. Sending his stuff back was just the appetizer. I wanted Mark to squirm, to feel the heat of everyone knowing what a snake he was. I opened Instagram, my thumb hovering over the story button. I wasn't going to stoop to their level with some petty call-out post. That's not my style. I'm smarter than that. I snapped a photo of the empty closet, the box's shadow just visible in the corner, and added a caption, "Cleaning house today, #new beginnings." No names, no tags, just enough to make people talk. I hit post and waited. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing. Friends, our friends, were DMing me. Liv, you okay? Is this about Mark? Spill the tea. I didn't reply, but I knew the rumor mill was churning. Good, let it burn. Mark must have caught wind because an hour later, my phone lit up with his name. A text. What the hell, Liv? You're embarrassing me. Embarrassing him? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed in the loft. Oh, you're embarrassed? Try getting dumped by text, you coward. I didn't send that, though. I just smirked and blocked his number. Let him stew. I wasn't playing his game anymore. I called a locksmith next, swapping out the loft's locks for a high-tech ring camera system. If Mark dared show his face, I'd have it on video every pathetic second. I pictured him banging on the door, begging to come back, and me sipping coffee while the camera rolled. Try me, asshole, I whispered, tightening the last screw on the camera mount. Then Jessica decided to clap back. Her Instagram story popped up, A photo of the FedEx box in her pristine penthouse lobby, her manicured nails tapping it. Caption: Thanks for the delivery, Olivia. Next time, keep it classy. My blood boiled. Classy? This from the woman who'd been sneaking around with my husband for 6 months? I wanted to smash my phone, to march to Tribeca and slap that smirk off her face. But I took a deep breath, my nails digging into my palms. Oh, you think you're clever, I muttered. Just wait, Jessica. I'm only getting started. I wasn't going to respond on her level. No public catfight for the gram. That's what she wanted, to drag me down to her petty little arena. Instead, I poured another coffee and started planning my next move. Sarah texted me a screenshot of the group chat. Our mutual friends were losing it. Did Liv really send Mark's stuff to Jessica? No way, that's iconic. Mark's such a dog. I smirked, sipping my coffee. The story had done exactly what I wanted, planted the seed without me saying a word. Mark was probably sweating, fielding calls from his buddies, trying to spin some sob story. Let him try. The truth was out there, and I hadn't even had to name him. I leaned back on the couch, the loft quieter now without his crap cluttering it. The new locks gleamed. The Ring camera blinked, ready for action. I felt a shift, like I was clawing back control piece by piece. But the anger was still there, simmering under my skin. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jessica's ring. Mark's arm around her, their smug smiles. 6 months. 6 months of lies while I was busting my ass to keep this loft, to keep us afloat. I thought about the late nights I'd spent working, the times I'd apologized for being too busy, the way I'd trusted him. My hands curled into fists, nails biting into my palms. He didn't just betray me, he played me, planned it, laughed about it with her. And Jessica, with her keep it classy jab, thought she'd won. They both thought I'd roll over and take it. They had no idea who they were messing with. I stood up, pacing the loft, the hardwood cool under my bare feet. The city hummed outside, New York's pulse sinking with the fire in my chest. This wasn't just about clearing out his stuff or stirring up gossip. This was about making them pay, about showing them I wasn't some naive small-town girl they could step on. I didn't know exactly what was next. Maybe I'd dig deeper. Maybe I'd hit them where it hurt most. But I knew one thing for sure. Olivia wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I glanced at the Ring camera, its red light steady, and smiled. Come on, Mark, I said to the empty room. Make your move. I'm ready. A few days after I sent Mark's stuff to Jessica's penthouse, I was still riding the high of taking back control. The new locks on the Soho loft gleamed, the Ring camera stood sentinel, and my Instagram story had the rumor mill buzzing. But the fire in my chest hadn't cooled. Every time I thought of Mark's text, Liv, I'm done, or Jessica's smug, keep it classy jab, my blood boiled. I was done crying, but I wasn't done fighting. I was pacing the loft, coffee in hand, when the Ring camera pinged. I grabbed my phone, heart racing, and there he was. Mark, standing outside my door, banging like he owned the place. Liv, open the damn door! He shouted, his voice muffled but furious. I smirked. Showtime. I took a deep breath, smoothed my hair, and opened the door, leaning against the frame with my arms crossed. Mark looked like hell. Tie loose, eyes bloodshot, like he hadn't slept since I sent his Rolex to Tribeca. What, your sugar mama done with you already? I said, my voice dripping with venom. Go cry in her penthouse. His face twisted like he couldn't believe I had the nerve. You're being dramatic, Liv, he snapped. You pushed me to this. You were always so controlling, always working, never here. I laughed, sharp and cold. Controlling? Me? The woman who'd been killing herself to pay for this loft while he was sneaking off with Jessica? Save your BS for your therapist, Mark. I cut him off. You're a clown, and I'm done with this circus. His mouth opened, then closed, and for once he had nothing to say. He stormed off, his footsteps echoing in the hall, and I slammed the door so hard the chandelier rattled. I thought that was it, that I'd gotten the last word. But Mark wasn't done playing dirty. The next morning, my phone blew up with notifications. Friends were texting, Liv, you see this? I opened Facebook, and there it was. a long, pathetic post from Mark, painting himself as the victim. I tried to make it work, but Olivia's jealousy and obsession drove me away, he wrote, spinning some sob story about my crazy behavior. The post had dozens of likes, shares, even comments from people I thought were my allies. Poor guy, she sounds unhinged, one said. My hands shook as I read it. This wasn't just a low blow, it was sabotage. I'd already lost a couple of consulting gigs because clients saw the drama unfolding online. He was trying to ruin me. I wanted to scream, to fire back with every screenshot Sarah had sent me, to expose him as the lying snake he was. But I wasn't going to play his game, not on his turf. I poured another coffee, my nails tapping the mug, and called Sarah. He's trying to bury me, I said, my voice tight. Not happening, she replied. You're smarter than him, Liv. Hit him where it hurts. She was right. I wasn't going to win this with a Facebook rant. I needed real ammunition. I hung up and got to work. First, I called Diane, a divorce lawyer in Manhattan who was known for eating guys like Mark for breakfast. Bring me everything you've got, she said, her voice calm but lethal. We'll make him regret this. Next, I hired an IT guy, a friend of Sarah's, who knew his way around digital dirt. Check the Google Drive we shared, I told him. Mark's sloppy. Bet he forgot to cover his tracks. I was right. That night, the IT guy sent me a goldmine. Mark hadn't revoked my access to our shared drive, probably thinking I'd never check. There were photos, him and Jessica on a beach in Maldives, her in a bikini, him grinning like a frat boy. There were receipts, including one for that gaudy diamond ring Jessica flaunted on Instagram. But the real kicker? An email confirmation from a bank in the Cayman Islands showing Mark had transferred $200,000 from our joint investment account 18 months ago. 18 months. I'd been pouring my soul into our marriage, our home, while he was siphoning off our future to fund his escape. I sat back, staring at the screen, my heart pounding. You're dead, Mark, I whispered, a smile creeping across my face. This wasn't just proof of cheating, it was proof he'd been planning to screw me over from the start. The photos, the receipts, the bank transfer. It was a paper trail of betrayal, and I had it all. I forwarded everything to Diane, who replied, This is a slam dunk, he's finished. I leaned back on the couch, the loft quiet except for the hum of the city outside. For the first time since that text, I felt like I was holding the cards. Mark thought he could drag my name through the mud. He had no idea what was coming, but the high didn't erase the sting. As I scrolled through the drive, seeing those Maldives photos, I felt the knife twist again. I remembered the nights I'd stayed up late, balancing our budget, skipping vacations to save for the loft. I'd trusted him, loved him, built a life with him. And he'd been plotting this for a year and a half, laughing with Jessica while I was none the wiser. The anger was there, but so was the hurt, heavy and raw. I closed my laptop, my hands trembling, and looked around the loft. The Swarovski chandelier caught the light, but it felt hollow now, like a prop in a play that had ended. I wasn't just fighting for revenge, I was fighting for me, for the life I deserved. Mark could spread his lies, but I had the truth, and I was going to use it to burn his world down. Stepping into the Manhattan courtroom felt like walking onto a battlefield. Diane, my shark of a divorce lawyer, strode beside me, her heels clicking like war drums on the marble floor. I wore a tailored black blazer and skirt, my hair pulled back tight, every inch of me screaming, I'm not the one you mess with. Mark was already there, sitting with his lawyer, looking like a kicked puppy in a cheap suit. He glanced at me, his eyes pleading, but I stared straight ahead, my jaw set. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about justice. He'd tried to ruin me with that Facebook post, tried to paint me as the crazy ex while he played house with Jessica. But I had the emails, the receipts, the Cayman Islands transfer. Today, Mark was going to learn what happens when you underestimate Olivia. The judge, a stern woman with glasses perched on her nose, called the room to order. Mark's lawyer went first, spinning a sob story about how I'd neglected Mark, how my obsession with work had driven him to Jessica. Mark took the stand, his voice shaking as he said, Liv was always busy, Your Honor. I felt invisible. Invisible? I gripped the edge of my seat, my nails digging into the wood. This was the man who'd been jetting off to Maldives with his mistress while I paid our bills. I wanted to scream, but Diane shot me a look, calm, lethal. Wait for it, she whispered. And I did. When it was our turn, Diane stood, her presence filling the room like a storm. Your Honor, she said, her voice smooth as steel. This man didn't just cheat. He used their marriage as his personal piggy bank. She laid out the evidence like a royal flush. The Maldives photos, the diamond ring receipt, the email confirming the $200,000 transfer to the Cayman Islands. The courtroom was silent, the air heavy as she projected the bank confirmation on the screen. Mark's face went white, his lawyer fumbling with papers, clearly blindsided. The judge's eyes narrowed, her pen tapping the desk. Mr. Thompson, she said to Mark, care to explain this? He stammered, I didn't mean to, but it was over. Diane had gutted him. The judge ruled in my favor, no contest. Mark was ordered to repay the $200,000, and the asset split leaned heavily my way. Our loft, the investment accounts, all mine. Mark's lawyer tried to argue, but the judge shut him down. You've wasted enough of this court's time, she said. I walked out of that courtroom with Diane, my head high, feeling like I'd just slain a dragon. But the victory wasn't sweet. It was bitter, laced with the sting of 5 years wasted on a liar. Still, I'd won. Mark was left with nothing but his cheap suit and his regrets. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. A few days later, my phone pinged with a text from Sarah. Liv, check page 6, now. I opened the link, and my jaw dropped. The headline screamed, NYC businessman caught in divorce scandal with hidden offshore cash. The article laid it all bare. Mark's affair, the Cayman Islands account, the whole sordid mess. It named a source, a former colleague of Mark's, someone he'd screwed over years ago, who'd gotten wind of our divorce and leaked the financial dirt to the press. The story went viral, shared across X, with people tearing into Mark. What a scumbag, one post read. Olivia deserves better, said another. I sat there, stunned, a grin spreading across my face. Karma's a bitch, Mark, I muttered. The fallout was swift. Mark's company fired him, unwilling to touch the PR nightmare. His so-called friends ghosted him, too embarrassed to be linked to the guy plastered on page 6. He was radioactive, and I didn't have to lift a finger. I was sipping coffee in the loft, scrolling through the X posts when an email from Mark popped up. It was a novel full of whining. Liv, I screwed up. Jessica used me. Can we talk? Used him. I laughed loud and sharp, the sound bouncing off the loft's brick walls. I typed back one line. Talk to your lawyer, loser. Send, done. Then Jessica slid into my DMs, because of course she did. You're ruthless, she wrote. I like it. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Ruthless? Damn right I was. But I didn't owe her a response. Didn't owe her anything. I deleted the message and blocked her, her smug face vanishing from my screen. She could keep her penthouse and her fake respect. I was done with both of them. I leaned back on the couch, the loft quiet except for the hum of the city outside. The Swarovski chandelier caught the afternoon light, casting tiny rainbows on the walls. I felt, not happy exactly, but powerful. I'd walked into that courtroom with everything to lose and came out on top. Mark was a footnote now, a cautionary tale, but the ache was still there, deep in my chest. I thought about the nights I'd spent planning our anniversary, the way I'd trusted him, loved him. That Olivia was gone, and I wasn't sure if I mourned her or not. What I did know was that I wasn't broken. I was pissed, I was hurt, but I was still standing. And I was going to make damn sure the world knew it. The divorce was behind me, and with it, the weight of Mark's betrayal. I sold the Soho loft, every brick and chandelier tied to memories I wanted to erase. With the settlement and my share of our assets, I bought a penthouse in Dumbo, Brooklyn, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Brooklyn Bridge, its lights twinkling like stars against the night sky. The place was mine, clean, open, a fresh canvas. I stood on the balcony, the wind tugging at my hair, and felt something I hadn't in months, freedom. Mark was a ghost now, and I was ready to rebuild, not just for me, but for the woman I was becoming. Olivia wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. I threw a divorce party that shook the penthouse. Sarah helped me plan it, and we went all out. Hired a DJ who spun tracks that had everyone dancing, set up a martini bar with olives skewered on gold picks, and strung fairy lights across the ceiling. The place was packed with friends, old and new, their laughter drowning out the city's hum. Sarah raised a glass, her voice cutting through the music. To Olivia, the baddest boss in NYC. The room erupted in cheers, and I grinned, clinking my martini against hers. To new beginnings, I shouted, and for the first time in forever, I meant it. The party raged until dawn, and as I watched my friends dance under the lights, I felt like I'd reclaimed my life, piece by glittering piece. My consulting business was booming. Clients who dropped me during the Facebook drama came crawling back, and new ones were knocking. I landed a spot on Asterisk, How I Built This Asterisk, the podcast I'd listened to religiously, to talk about my journey from small-town hustler to NYC powerhouse. Sitting in the studio, headphones on, I told my story. Not just the divorce, but the grit, the late nights, the way I'd turned pain into fuel. The episode dropped, and my inbox flooded with messages from women who'd heard it, saying I'd inspired them to leave toxic relationships or chase their dreams. "You're a badass," one wrote. I smiled, saving that one. Damn right I was. I started volunteering with a local group for women navigating divorce, sharing my story to help them find their footing. Sitting in those circles, listening to their struggles, I realized how far I'd come. I wasn't just a survivor. I was a lighthouse, guiding others through the storm. One night after a meeting, a woman hugged me, tears in her eyes. "You gave me hope," she said. I hugged her back, my throat tight. "You've got this," I told her. Walking home under Brooklyn's streetlights, I felt a quiet pride. This was bigger than me now. Then came the twist that sealed it all. I got an email from a Vogue editor, someone who'd heard my podcast episode. "We'd love you to write for our Women Who Win column," she wrote. "Tell us about overcoming betrayal, building your empire." I stared at the screen, my coffee going cold. Vogue, the magazine I'd flipped through as a kid, dreaming of a life bigger than my small town. I wrote the piece in a fever, pouring out everything. The text from Mark, the Cayman Islands betrayal, the courtroom victory, the penthouse. I didn't sugarcoat it. I laid it bare, raw, and real. When it published, it went viral. X lit up with women sharing it, tagging me with #Unbothered and #Queen Olivia. "This is my story too," one posted. I read every comment, my heart full. I'd turned my pain into something that lifted others, and that felt like the ultimate win. I posted a selfie on Instagram, standing on my penthouse balcony, the Brooklyn Bridge glowing behind me. My caption was simple: "New chapter, new me, #Unbothered." The likes poured in, but it wasn't about the numbers. It was about owning my story, showing the world I wasn't defined by Mark's betrayal. I heard through the grapevine that he was working as a bartender at some dive bar in Queens, the kind with sticky floors and neon signs. Customers recognized him from the Page 6 scandal, whispering behind their beers, and he'd slink away humiliated. Jessica. She'd vanished from the scene after ex-users tore into her, their Kakia posts calling out her homewrecker vibes. I didn't care where they were or what they were doing. They were irrelevant. Standing in my penthouse, martini in hand, I looked out at the city I'd conquered. The bridge stretched across the skyline, a symbol of everything I'd crossed to get here. I thought about the old Olivia, the one who'd planned that anniversary dinner, who'd trusted Mark with her heart. She was gone, but I didn't mourn her. She'd taught me how to fight, how to rise. The pain still lingered, a quiet ache when I passed the jazz records in my collection, or saw a couple laughing in a restaurant. But it didn't own me. I owned it. I sipped my martini, the olive sharp on my tongue, and smiled. No man, no betrayal, no scandal could pull me down. I was Olivia, the woman who'd rebuilt her life from ashes, who'd turned heartbreak into headlines. The city pulsed below, alive with possibility, and I was right there with it, unbothered, unstoppable, a queen in her castle. Let the world come for me. I was ready.